The courthouse of Halewick had seen its share of scandals, betrayals, and verdicts that echoed for generations. Yet on this stormlit morning, a different kind of trial unfolded, one where the accused had not uttered a single word since his arrest. The man, known only as Elias Gray, sat at the defendant's table with eyes that seemed older than time itself, his silence pressing heavier than the storm pounding against the windows. Lawyers had tried for weeks to provoke a response, but not even a nod or sigh had escaped him. The townsfolk packed the wooden benches, whispering theories, madman, prophet, criminal genius, but the truth was locked behind sealed lips. When Judge Marrow entered and the gavel struck, the air shifted. Everyone knew this was no ordinary proceeding. This was a trial against silence itself, and silence had never been so loud. The prosecution wasted no time, painting Elias as a manipulator who used quietness as a weapon. They claimed his refusal to speak was proof of guilt, a strategy to unnerve the system and evade justice. Witnesses came forward, farmers, merchants, even the arresting officer, each testifying to the same eerie stillness. He looked at me like I wasn't even real, one swore, trembling, like I was just air he had already judged. The jury scribbled notes nervously, while the audience shifted uncomfortably. Yet every attempt to label Elias felt hollow, like trying to grasp smoke. When the prosecutor finally pointed at him with a flourish, demanding he answer to charges of conspiracy and murder, Elias only blinked once. That single motion unsettled the court more than a confession could have. Silence was winning. Then came the defense, a young lawyer named Leora Crane, fresh from the academy, chosen not for her reputation, but because no one else dared touch the case. She rose, her voice steady, though her hands trembled. "What if his silence is not defiance?" she began, pacing before the jury. But testimony itself. Murmurs swept the benches. She argued that Elias's refusal to speak was not a rejection of justice, but a mirror forcing the court to examine its own assumptions. "Perhaps," she said, leaning close, "his silence is telling us more than words ever could." Judge Marrow frowned, unused to philosophy in his chambers, but even he felt the weight of her words. For the first time, Elias lifted his gaze to meet hers. It was as if two silent agreements passed between them, invisible yet binding. As the storm raged harder outside, the courtroom became a battlefield of interpretation. Prosecution demanded proof, waving evidence maps, letters, bloodied cloth, while the defense asked questions that sliced deeper than facts. "What is truth if we demand it only in words?" Leora pressed. "What if silence is the only way left to resist a corrupted system?" The gallery fell into hushed awe. Journalists scribbled furiously, sensing history in the making. The jury leaned forward, no longer looking at the evidence but at Elias, who still had not spoken. The silence grew almost unbearable, pressing against walls, ribs, and reason. Judge Marrow's gavel cracked like thunder, but it could not break the spell that Elias had cast. Finally, as the trial reached its breaking point, Elias rose. The room froze. His voice, when it came, was low, rough, yet clear as iron. "You have all spoken too much." That was all. Gasps rippled through the hall, some in shock, others in revelation. For many, it was less a statement than a verdict delivered by a man beyond the court's reach. The judge called for order, but the trial was over the moment Elias spoke. The silence he had carried had already judged them all, exposing their fears, greed, and need for answers where none existed. When the gavel fell for the last time, no one remembered the charges. They remembered the silence that had put an entire courtroom on trial and won.